A hate crime to criticize that guy because of course, he could never be wrong. I mean, liberals ruin everything. I mean, they really do. Name one thing, seriously, one thing that liberals have ever made better. I mean, everywhere, give or take, all places they have total control over, places where everything gets done their way. I'm talking state, local government. People are leaving in droves. These cities and states are complete dumps. And it's not because of something like a meteor strike or an alien invasion or an earthquake. It's not like they didn't see this coming. It is directly related to their policies. They pass, quite frankly, really stupid laws that include ridiculous taxes. They let people shoot heroin on the street. They let people take over 8 blocks of a major city and declare themselves a separate Chaz-Chop autonomous zone. I mean, California, Connecticut, New York, the list goes on and on. In Detroit, you've had, I don't know, exclusive Democratic control for like more than half a century. The city's a mess. And when the Republican points that out, liberals they can't argue the facts on it. So what do they go to? Their number one talk, you're a racist. That's what they got. Perfect example. Remember Baltimore? After the riots for Freddie Gray's death occurred, a city that was basically already in shambles, burned and looted by its own people. This was largely the response of the Democratic Party.
Make the phone call, send the email, show up. You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives. And unfortunately, there's plenty to go around.
This is a particular moment in American history where 400 years of oppression, 400 years of racism are being addressed in a very, very powerful way. That can't compare to anything else. And people's voices needed to be heard.
This is not just a moment, it is a movement. It is a movement that is fueled by the diversity, the beautiful diversity of who we are coming together as a unified body, demanding, in this case, change and justice for everyone.
Nope, it was unlawful riots. Somehow, though, these liberals, they thought the level of outrage became this level of justification. This is about bad leadership by Democrats, plain and simple. Look, I know some liberal in Baltimore right now is probably watching this, but like, no, Carl, it's about race. Is it? I mean, okay, fine, let's say it is. What is the problem? Because those Baltimore rioters, where they were burning down their own city at a time when Baltimore had a black mayor, a black police chief, a majority black police force, a majority black city council, a black president with a black attorney general, your argument sucks. It has nothing to do with racism. It's not about racism. It's not about whatever they said, the 400 years of oppression. It's about bad policies. You try to make it about race, but your argument against my opinion cannot be based in any reality. Nothing supports their stance whatsoever.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I mean, that talking point may work on CNN, but it's not work. It doesn't work in reality. You would think that one Democrat somewhere, any Democrat, would look at this under this pesky thing called data, or even maybe open the first page of a history book before opening their mouth on any topic. Say, I don't know, you could do this all day. Pick one. Healthcare. It was best when Obama and his friends, they wanted to overhaul the entire healthcare system since their flagship enterprise, the VA, did so well under government control. I mean, sure, what could possibly go wrong? We'll do it for the rest of the country, right? Sure, what they sold the American people sounded great. Oh, wow, free health care for everyone. But again, this thing called reality was that they were going to take every dollar that was being used in the system for research, for grants, for innovation, and redirect it to providing a one-size-fits-all health care plan that even included maternity care for men. Real great job, Democrats. This is what you get when you get their policies. And then they said their surrogates went out and they said, oh, look at how healthy everyone is in Sweden, Denmark, and a few other European nations. Great. That's their example. What they didn't tell you is that how long those folks wait for an appointment, a cancer screener, or anything else they need. And you know what? What they also conveniently forgot to mention is when a prominent person in those countries needs some actual health care in a timely manner, you know where they go? America. Why? Because we are the cutting edge. We do it better because our system is better than their system. So why are we diving headfirst into it? Oh, by the way, when a virus leaked from a Chinese virology lab and killed millions of people, you know who engineered a vaccine in record time? Trump, in America. Not Sweden, not Denmark, or Chad, Sudan, Nigeria. It was America. And you know who benefited from America's medical breakthrough? Everyone else in the world. because our free market system works. When America's on top, everybody else benefits too. You have this argument with a liberal, and they'll just change the subject. This is what they do. When they lose an argument, they just change the subject. Oh, well, it's because the rich need to pay their fair share. Really? Okay. Let's have that argument too. What's their fair share? And they'll never answer it because they don't know. Most of these people advocating for the rich to pay more don't even know what they pay. This is my point. Liberals have no idea what they're talking about most of the time. They just don't. I mean, never mind the irony of a guy complaining the rich don't pay enough while making millions of dollars himself and avoiding paying taxes on it. Democrats are always trying to raise taxes. I honestly, I can't recall a time in my life when a Democrat ever lowered taxes. I really can't. I just don't know any. 38 years old. I mean, seriously, why isn't every Republican running on this simple banner? Hi, I'm Republican. My name is X. I want to lower taxes. That dude over there running as a Democrat will make you pay more. Period. End of story. Full stop. I mean, come on, GOP. Let's get our act together and get some messaging on this. Seriously, everywhere liberals are, businesses are leaving. Mostly because of taxes. Like California, a beautiful place, tons of reasons for businesses to be there, abundant natural resources, it's got everything. Why are people leaving? Because Newsom wants to raise taxes, he wants control, he wants to shut down your business because Democrats ruin everything. Where are they going? Conservative states, Florida, Texas, Wyoming, etc. This is not rocket science. Look at the policies of where they're coming from, look at the policies of where they're going to. Take notes and make your state like that. It's the simplest concept. I just don't understand why people don't get it. And they'll come back and say, oh, well, Carl, if they just had some basic income, it would really help people out. This is the new policy, from all those failed liberal utopias. Really? Really? So if we just give people money, it'll help everything else like we did with the COVID unemployment subsidies that went out? Really? That worked out really. Turns out that if you pay people not to work, guess what they don't do? They don't work. Yet another liberal policy leads to businesses suffering. Because when people don't work at the entry level, you can't get employees because they make more money if they're not working. Look, I could do this all day. You pick any issue. I will show you why the policies I vote for are better than those of the Democrats. And even in the face of all this, most of these people, when presented with overwhelming evidence, will still not vote Republican. That's how stubborn they are. Look, shockingly enough, I have a few liberal friends, believe it or not, and they went to Florida during the pandemic. They come back and they're like, yo, Florida's awesome. No masks, businesses open, low gas prices. It's great. If we could just get rid of Ron DeSantis. I look at these people. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Yeah, I tried to explain to them that DeSantis is the reason why these policies are the way they are. It's not by accident. It's not like this just happens in some places. This is the same level of reasoning that claims to be the party of science, but thinks gender is like a social construct or something. Democrats, some of them might be halfway decent folks, like a great neighbor to borrow, I don't know, like a cup of sugar or a rake from or something like that, but they shouldn't be anywhere near any type of governance. I mean, because when they get into power, there is no choice. They call Trump a dictator. They're actually dictating everything. Everything they don't like, they'll tax it, and if they can't tax it, they'll ban it, and then they'll swarm you with social pressure and legislate you to force you to accept their way of thinking until you submit, because free thought is the enemy of their policies. They'll do whatever they want, like Obama, his 700-person proposed birthday party during a pandemic, so-called pandemic. But you can't go visit your dying grandmother in the hospital because, science and stuff. Thank God he canceled it. But imagine for a moment if the roles were reversed. Okay? Let's look at this as a liberal. I mean, bear with me. I know you guys have jobs and it's hard to put yourself in their shoes. But think about this. They're already mad because their ideas are horrible and they never work. But imagine for a moment you're one of these liberals, sitting in your parents' basement. You got your blue hair. You're fighting on the front lines of the keyboard war. And Trump is still president. Imagine this for a sec. Imagine he comes out and he says, masks are banned altogether. Can't wear one, even if you want one. Imagine if he mandated everybody went and worked through the pandemic. I know what you're saying. Oh, the science, forget that. The liberals threw that out a long time ago. Their argument is purely emotional. But stay with me here. What if Trump mandated everybody must own a gun? And what if he said abortions are outlawed? The left would be hysterical. But that scenario is no different from what's going on now with the opposite side of the political ideology. The only difference here is that Trump never did that. Trump gave you the option. The Republican platform gives you the option, the freedom of choice. Trump, the so-called dictator by the left, said, hey, folks, I created this vaccine in record time and I want to provide you the option to get it. He said, I don't agree with abortion, so I'm going to use my platform to advocate against it, but I'm not going to unilaterally outlaw it. He and Desantis, they got together, they worked on this new law to craft the ability for you for them to enforce your choice to mask your kids or not. Making a law ensuring choice. Think about that. When have liberals ever done that? Oh, right, with abortion, but under the guise of my body, my choice, while killing another human being. Isn't it ironic that they're now forcing federal employees to vaccinate because, they say, if you don't, it could kill another human being? Their entire platform is a steaming pile of hypocritical horse manure. Yep, I said it. A steaming pile of hypocritical horse manure. Not only do they, liberals in Congress, have policies that are actively working against us to make this great country worse, they're also wild hypocrites. Listen to what the left woke superstar Cori Bush had to say.
I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety net.
Yep, she gets personal security, but you and I defund the police. We can't have our guns. We can't protect ourselves because she has to be there. I want to bring in Congresswoman Beth Van Dunn. She is a Republican Congresswoman of Texas. What do you think of Cori Bush's statement that, you can't have protection, but me, I might spend $200,000 of your tax dollars on it?
I think it's exactly what you've been saying. Is they say one thing, and then they do a complete other thing for themselves. It's for thee, not for me. And, she's saying, well, I've had threats in my life. I'm to be protected. Why is her life worth so much more than the constituents that she represents? She's willing to have their livelihood, their safety put in jeopardy, all for this political talking point, all for political theater. And yet at the same token, she's saying, well, I deserve to get $200,000 or whatever it takes to keep me safe, but I'm going to take away your safety. You are hearing this over and over again from this far left socialist, elitist Democrat Party, and it needs to stop.
Yeah. Congressman, I hold a much less significant office than you. I'm on what is the equivalent of the town council in my hometown. And I have a public email address, and I go out to people, and all the people that are on the town thing with me, they're like, why do you just let anybody talk to you about any issue? I was like, because I am I ran to be a servant of the people. And this is what people like Cori Bush don't get. It's like, you know what? In all essence, when you run to represent people, you work for the people. You are under those people because they are your boss. They cast a vote and they put you there to represent them. And when I see stuff like this, I think, how in the world is this woman not thrown out of office on the very next election?
Look, I was on town council. I was on city council for 6 years. I was mayor for 6 years. And what you have to do is get out and talk to people where they feel the most comfortable. You have to talk, but not just talk to them, but listen. And, I don't see her doing a whole lot of that. As soon as votes are up in D.C., I come home. I was working a shift at the racetrack down the street because I wanted to talk to the people who work there. I want to find out, what are you seeing? How is life for you? What's going on in your community? And they'll tell you, we can't hire people right now because of the extended unemployment. We're paying people more to stay at home than to come to work. And everybody suffers as that. I mean, you think about going out and trying to eat. You think about the prices that the inflation that's having, that's causing, the increases in pretty much everything because they can't get drivers to bring, products to the market. It is making all of us suffer. It is these extreme leftist politics that are doing it.
Yeah,
and we just keep
I want to ask you real quick about, we're talking about failures of the left. I mean, that's basically what their entire platform is. But the border, I mean, I know this is tried and true, but the border, they want to, here in New York, you have vaccine passports, you can't go in. Like, if I walk across the border from the south, I get no testing, no mask, no whatever, and I get a bus ticket to wherever I want to go. Why can't they get this straight? They want to shut down restaurants, but not the border?
Well, look at what they're doing in D.C. last week. They were arresting dissidents that didn't agree with them. They're arresting Republican staff members for not wearing a mask, and yet they're allowing hundreds of thousands of people every month to come over our border illegally. Again, it's one thing for them, it's another thing for us. Will it continue? Yes, it's going to get worse before it gets better. People are going to have to stand up and say enough is enough. That's what we're doing in Congress. I mean, you see me and my Republican colleagues all standing up, talking to the press, showing a light on it. But, the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it. But everything from what's going on our borders to looking at our energy insecurity now, when we did have energy independence, now we don't. You look at the cases that are coming in over the border and the insecurity there. You look at what's happening in our streets. You look at our inflation. You look at the prices that we're paying on the pump. You look at our economy, people not being able to open up their business. They can't find people. All of this is a Democrat role, all of it. And it needs to change.
Yeah, well, Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, thank you very much for staying on the front lines. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, coming up, a La Mesa police officer was fired over a viral arrest video that basically shows him doing his job. His wife joins us next. Well, Degas is expected to appear in court next week. Now, joining me now is the founder and director of operations for the Pipe Hitter Foundation and the author of The Man in the Arena, From Fighting ISIS to Fighting for My Freedom, Eddie Gallagher, and the wife of the officer, Christina Degas. How are you both? Christina, this is really shocking to me. It seems like a lawful arrest. And of course, the mainstream media talking points just played the last half second of the video, not the full thing. So tell us a little bit about what actually went down here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. But May 27th last year changed our lives entirely. So Matthew was assigned by the La Mesa Police Department to work a trolley enforcement detail that day. He was there with other officers. And the purpose of them being there was to contact everyone on MTS property. It's a very high crime area in La Mesa, so the police department regularly implements these enforcement details. So Matthew was there that day doing his job the way he was trained and ordered to do by the department. And it was during a consensual encounter with the subject that it was discovered they did not have a trolley pass on MTS property, which resulted in a detention. So the subject refused to provide his name, walked away, and then ended up striking Matthew during the detention, which is what led to the low-level use of force and arrest. So had the subject just cooperated and given his name, he would have been given a warning and then released. But of course, a bystander video of only the low-level use of force that Matthew used went viral. They posted it online along with the hashtag George Floyd. And that led to immediate protests at our home, at the police department as well. Those protests devolved into looting and arson and violence. And so it became a politically charged incident, which heavily influenced how the leaders at La Mesa handled this investigation.
Yeah, I mean, it is shocking to me. This is the media sensation about stuff. Is like they don't want to focus on the criminals. They want to focus on the police making sure the criminals don't commit crime. Now, Eddie, you obviously just went through this. You had a massive victory where you were basically acquitted of all charges in a similarly politicized thing. So you started this group called the Pipe Hitter Foundation, which swoops in, helps fund legal fees, living expenses, and things like that. Tell us about what Pipe Hitters Foundation is doing for Christina and her family.
Yeah, so, a case just like theirs is the exact reason we started this foundation. Unfortunately, we know how it feels to be hung out to dry for a political agenda or certain leaders bound to the mob. So what we're doing is we step in, we help fund their legal defense, we advocate for them, and then we also will fund for their emergency relief fund for their families as they're going through this, because as she just explained, it's what they're going through is a nightmare, and it's a very stressful time. And so we want to step in, help them out as much as we can.
Yeah. So, Christina, there's no amount of time that you could express the pain and suffering that your family is going through, but give us like the 30-second overview of what it's been like for the last year.
constant agony, and that almost feels like an understatement. This is the fight of our lives. Not only has my husband been wrongfully slandered in the media for over a year now, but we had to move. We had unrelenting protests at our home and death threats, so we had to sell our home that we had just purchased for safety reasons. So we had to move kind of in the midst of this life upheaval, and it's just been wrong, if I could sum it in one word.
Well, I mean, Eddie, real quick, I got about 15 seconds left. How much do we need, and how do we raise the money to help these people that just unfortunately have this terrible situation?
Sure. So, you can go on to pipehitterfoundation.org and donate there, and that money will go straightly to the Diggs family as they're going through this this trial and everything they're going through. So that's the way.
All right. Eddie Gallagher, Pipe Hitters Foundation. It's right down there on the bottom of the screen. Christina Pushaw, thank you very much for joining about it. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up.
Thank you, Carl.
Last summer, our nation's biggest cities were completely destroyed. I mean, stores looted, buildings set on fire, police officers harassed, and most of all was from Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, Carl, good to be with you.
So I got a question for you here. So the left has used the talking point. This was an insurrection. Okay, fine. How many people, give or take, have been actually charged with insurrection?
I'm not aware of any being charged with insurrection. I mean, my general concern here is that the Justice Department is prosecuting these cases in a way as to undermine confidence in the fair administration of justice. The disparate treatment of the folks involved in the January 6th disturbance versus the handling of the rioters. Look, Carl, I was at the Kavanaugh hearings. I saw violence. I saw efforts to disrupt congressional proceedings. I'm not aware of any Justice Department investigation of the nature that we're seeing here. And a lot of those folks still aren't getting access to basic evidence that other defendants would gain access to. In fact, the American people haven't gained access to the information that the Justice Department has, that the Congress has.
Right. Well, what's interesting is, look, obviously we know, and let me say this, if you broke into the Capitol and you broke things and you stole things, you're an idiot and you're wrong and you should be prosecuted for that. However, a lot of people didn't. And the FBI basically put out an APB on anybody who was within like 100 yards of the Capitol at any given time. I'm not saying the FBI shouldn't do that, but I am saying that the FBI should do that for all riots. So what is the cause? Well, we know the cause, politically motivated, obviously, but what's the legal cause for them to separate these two things? They both destroyed property. They both broke into things. They both broke the law. Why is one being treated as basically terrorists and the other one being set free by Kamala Harris's fund that she helped raise as a VP candidate to get these people bailed out?
Well, when something doesn't make sense as to why a government official was doing something in one instance and not the other, or government entity, it's usually because of politics. It's politics.
Yeah.
And the politics of January 6th mandates that the Justice Department drop the hammer on everyone who was there. Frankly, despite the extent of their involvement in criminal activity, they've kind of bound up individuals who assaulted the police, who, as you say, defaced property or broke stuff, that they obviously the sort of thing that suggests that should be prosecuted. But then there are people who walked in through open doors. One person was just, after being kept in jail for 6+ months, the Justice Department, after pretending that he committed felonies, let him plead out to a petty misdemeanor, I think it's called, where he was, quote, pled guilty to parading in the Capitol. So, there are folks that are being targeted, in my view, with the full weight of the federal government, which is in a political way, not a way that advances the cause of justice. And of course, the other big issues were they spying other Americans using the pretext of January 6th? We have the post office spying on social media posts. We have the FBI seemingly collecting data on banking transactions of everyone in the D.C. area that day. This is not just about those in jail, Carl. This is about other Americans who the left doesn't like, and they're using January 6th as a pretext to target them as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. You would think that they would at least do. Justice is supposed to be blind. Everybody should be tried equally, have the equal opportunity to present evidence, innocent until proven guilty. I guess we don't live there anymore. President of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, we appreciate your insight on this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, coming up, Drew Berquist, the founder of Mammoth Nation, is here to talk about the companies that donate to BLM and other crazy liberal organizations and why you may not want to support these companies anymore.
Standing up for BLM, standing up for this, but then they don't do a darn thing to change anything. And as you learn more and more, and some of these people, I've seen the report that you're talking about, there's others out there, you see the companies that are actually standing up for Black Lives Matter, standing up for all these things that directly oppose what most Americans' values are. And it's staggering. It's befuddling, to use your word, to see some of the companies, because a lot of them are ones that you wouldn't think. You've heard of some in the mainstream media, but there's so many there that you're likely investing your dollars in, and you're supporting the very things that you're against.
Yeah, things like Nike, Netflix, American Airlines. It's stuff that you never thought you would see. And they're taking our hard-earned money and saying, look, this is what we want to spend our money on. We're going to give money to Black Lives. Look, they're still scrolling. They've been scrolling this list the entire segment here. I mean, so you started this Mammoth Nation, okay? Tell us a little bit about what it is, because most people never even heard of this.
Well, look, we were, like so many people in your audience, fed up with what is happening in this country, fed up with what's happening with companies who either they align ideologically with these groups or they just are caving to this group. The net outcome is the same. It's not good. And we wanted to do something different. We wanted to create a conservative marketplace, a place that people could go and know that they're investing in companies that support, the Constitution, the Second Amendment, all the things that are values and important to this country. And we wanted to do it in a way that it took kind of the guesswork out. You see that list that just scrolled on the screen there, and it's huge, it's expansive, and Lord knows how many are not on that list that should be.
Right.
So a lot of conservatives saying, well, how can we do this? How can we push back? The first thing is, of course, not supporting those. But then the second thing is you can come to a site like ours, and where we've done the legwork for you. We've vetted companies who are there. They're either conservative or they're at least politically neutral. And then not only do you get discounts on those products, but you also, it goes towards the proceeds go towards supporting conservative causes and candidates. So we think it's a win-win.
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. The other no-brainer to me, that every company that's ever gone woke, you got Nike posted like massive loss after supporting Colin Kaepernick. You have some of these other ones that support BLM. They always lose money. I mean, like, never do they make money. And then they come out, and my problem with that is, it's like, okay, fine, bad company policy, stupid decision, maybe fire the CEO, but hundreds, if not thousands of other people in these companies lose their jobs because of this go woke, go broke reality. Why do they dive headfirst into this?
I think they're so terrified of, again, what, these loud voices that everyone's hearing and that the mainstream media is pushing out there makes it seem as though it's a majority of Americans who feel this way. And it's just not. It's a small percentage of Americans, in fact. But because the mainstream media is peddling it so hard, and because these companies are terrified of what could happen if they don't push back against what really is lunacy, most of these messages that are out there, they're terrified of that. So they do it. And then what's sad is, as you said, in the process, they kill jobs, they take away stuff, they kill their opportunity. I mean, look, call me a fool, but I would rather make 100% than 50%, and you ostracize your audience or your purchasers when you do that. So it makes no sense to me, and it always bites them in the end. So you'd think that there would be a trend and they would start to learn and pick up, oh, it didn't work for Coke, that didn't work for those guys, but they all just keep doing it, and it blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it is staggeringly shocking to me. So, yeah, well, it looks like I'll be shopping at places that I know that have been vetted by Mammoth Nation. Thank you very much, Drew Berquist. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. Talk soon. New developments arise from this.